It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Kurt and Adele Judas. We're here in Jerusalem.
I am going to speak about my husband's war experience first. The nightmare of World War II years began the morning after the broken glass. I realized, as I recently was told on my journey back to Germany, that on that fateful day of November 9, 1938, some 50 Jews, including myself, at the tender age of 6, were paraded in front of the burning synagogue in our small rural town of Ehringen. Soon after, we had to relinquish our stables and homes to the incoming infantry. Conditions became gradually worse. We had to relocate to the neighboring city of Freiburg. Business and employment for Jews became nil. On October 22, 1940, most Jews of that region were deported to the concentration camps in France, close to the Spanish border. We'll take pictures from that. Camp Rivesaltes and Camp Gurs. Barracks and straw mattresses were the norm. Young children were kept together with their mothers. Fathers were put in separate compounds. The conditions were atrocious. Muddy pathways, food became very scarce. My grandmother, after 6 weeks being interned, died of typhoid and dysentery. Several months later, we were shipped to another camp. There, the howling winds made havoc of our lives. Those camps were under the administration of the Vichy collaborators. My parents and I, uncle, aunt, and cousin, another aunt and family, escaped through the barbed wire at night. We were able to somehow live on the farm for some 7 months. We had a vision of a safe haven, but no such luck. We were then recaptured and returned to Camp Rivesaltes. It is now in the middle of 1942 when the final solution was put into motion by request and under the command by none other than Eichmann Yimach Shmo. As many as of 1,000 people per convoy, including children, were shipped in cattle cars for their final journey to Auschwitz. Miraculously, my mother had the foresight to let a Jewish organization who went underground and goes by the letters of OSE, Œuvre au Secours des Enfants, Organization to Save the Children. They smuggled approximately and saved 6,000 children, including myself, out of these camps. I inherited the title of the Wandering Jew. I once asked a psychologist, how come I cannot remember the names of all the places I was at? She answered, when one is traumatized, that is very common. I will never forget the first orphanage I came to. Not only was I abused physically, but also sexually, which made matters even worse. Who do you turn to when the abuser is the pedophile, as well as being the director of the orphanage? The second orphanage, believe it or not, was a castle converted to a children's home. Until today, I still do not know if these children at this home were Moranos from Spain or Gentiles. They only spoke Spanish. I can pride myself that I learned the language quickly and still today can converse in it. All through the war, food was a scarce commodity. I can remember eating a certain grass to quench my hunger. We picked berries and nuts while we were out on excursions. I probably did not stay more than several months in one place. Another castle is added to my itinerary, and that was called Montintin, very close to Limoges. This home had a more Jewish atmosphere because I remember playing the part of King Ahasuerus in a Purim play. These were pleasant moments that I shall always cherish. Can you imagine that at the age of 10 years, I was the oldest child in that place, for I can recall on a cold and wintry day, together with an elder gentleman, trekking through a foot of snow with a pushcart to pick up the bread in a neighboring town. It was apparent by the end of 1943, keeping many children in this home became very risky. The OSE, the Œuvre au Secours des Enfants, was worried for the safety of the children as the Nazis were overrunning France. In order to emphasize my point, on April 6, 1944, in the town of Isieux, by the order of Klaus Barbie, 2 vans were sent to transport the 44 Jewish children and their 5 adult caretakers to Auschwitz, where they were immediately gassed. Some children were scattered about in convents, private homes, and on farms. Riding on a bus one day together with a younger cousin by the same family name, the lady accompanying us suddenly leaned over toward me, handed me some papers. She whispered in my ears, "These are your falsified ID papers." My new name became Charles Julien, and my cousin's name became Maurice Julien. For one instant to another, I changed from being Jewish to Gentile. Should you have a slip of the tongue, it could mean life or death. We were dropped off on a farm to an elderly couple by the name of Bora. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast was some kind of soup with pieces of bread floating in it, after which we walked and attended classes in a public school. Reminiscing today the chores that were asked of me at the age of 12, believe me, $1,000 would not suffice for me to do them. For a festive occasion, I slaughtered and skinned a domesticated rabbit for the owner of the house to be able to make rabbit stew. After the rains, we gathered snails and caged them for several days so they cleansed themselves. Hence, they were cooked in butter. Escargot is a delicacy in the finest eateries, but no matter how you prepared these dishes, they never turned kosher. One event that happened one morning in school remains very vivid in my mind. We had to stand by our desks as the teacher entered the classroom. He glanced into the wastebasket and noticed a loose geography page. I have no clue who orchestrated this situation, but this page was missing from my geography book. The teacher's reaction was, "I'm going to get this Jew boy." He ordered me to the rear of the class, then told me to put my hands behind my back. Let me tell you, this guy was built like a fullback on a professional football team. He proceeded to slap my face from side to side, not once, not twice, but several times. After that episode, I never flunked geography again, for I had all the geography in my head. Bombardments by the Allies could be seen for miles. The smoke and flames rose skyward. The war years and the confinements were slowly coming to an end. Some 8 months later, we left our adopted home and regretfully never looked back, for these people had risked their lives in order for me to stand before you and cry out, "Never again." Those years have vanished before my eyes. Survival was critical, and suddenly you came to your senses. You realized you had a mother and a father. Where are they now? What could have happened to them? Why did my mother abandon me? I was alone. The war was over. People were dancing in the streets of all faiths. No more concentration camps, no more barracks, no more barbed wire and straw mattresses to rest your shattered body on. I had a feeling that I was placed on a deserted island. I was alone. Like in a dream, I no longer had to play the part of a Gentile youth. No more going to Mass on Sundays. No more kneeling before graven images. When I crossed my heart, I sometimes wondered, why me? But I was alive. Off came the coat of many colorful facets of Christianity. But to my greatest disappointment, I tried to put on the coat of Judaism, but alas, it didn't fit. I was a young boy lost on that island. It was like the whole world was on one side and I was on the other side. I was alone. Through my adolescent years, my thoughts found consolation and comfort that someday, sometimes, in some place, they will be strolling down the avenue of the righteous. We will fall into each other's arms, and once again we will be reunited again. It is now 1945, and I'm sitting in the courtyard in my new home by the name of L'Hirondelle, an Orthodox orphanage of approximately 120 children that had survived the war. In my hand, I'm holding a printout in large letters of the alphabet. I'm 13 years old now. Am I retarded? Or have I been robbed of the precious elementary school years? I guess the second is true. My bar mitzvah is going to be soon. It will be on Parshas Baruch Asai. My luck that year was a leap year. And was a leap year. Like those of you who are familiar with the Chumash reading know that Sheni in that Sedra is approximately and probably the shortest parsha that consists of 6 lines. I mastered that. Oh yes, there were gifts laid out on the table of the orphanage office. It was a special occasion. It was not a catered affair, and we saved lots of money, for they did not have to mail out invitations. There was no family to invite. It is now 1946, and I'm ready for my calling, and as in the scriptures the Almighty told his people, upon wings of eagle I will carry them and bring them to me. I came to these shores, to America, to live by an aunt, uncle, and cousin. In conclusion, let me leave you with one thought. That package on your back that you carry around, let me tell you, it never gets any lighter. Yes, I am a survivor.
Sure.
How do you like
It's
that?
unbelievable.
And now,
really
I
unbelievable.
want to tell you what he made out of his life. Somebody else who has gone through what he has gone through. At the age of 10, he was already an orphan. And whatever he undertook in his life, he made the best out of it. Lived with this aunt.
That's very hard. Kurt, thank you so much for letting us hear.
He gets too
It's
emotional.
very emotional.
And I presented well, I think.
Very well. Adele, can I ask, do they know what happened to his parents?
We're gassed in Auschwitz.
Did they find the...
Yeah.
there
Because
was-
we have the book of Serge Klaasfeld, who every convoy, and we found his father's convoy, 31, in 1942. I think it was October. He was put on those cattle trains and shipped to Auschwitz, arriving there right into the gas chambers. And his mother outlived his father by maybe not quite a year, and they shipped her out, and she died in Auschwitz.
And you've seen it on the
On the book. We'll
Right.
show you the book later.
Okay.
And
And that picture where we have Madame Bora,
That's where
Borat.
we were hidden.
is
That was
you
the
and him?
last months.
Are you familiar with France?
A little bit. I'm just going to take a little...
Yeah.
Oh, this is... And this is the lady that... Was she given Chasidei or Matalam? A righteous Gentile?
No.
Yeah.
She was given.
Yeah.
Yes.
My cousin
Yes,
had
we have it in
Yeah, Russia.
Yad Vashem. Wow, Kurt, this is incredible and a very, very...
well put, written. And look, I'm reading it, right?
You
And-
lived it. You
and,
lived
and,
it. yeah.
and 70 years, 75 years later, he's still crying. So I don't want to put him through this each time that he's asked to speak. But and he, because he gets so emotional, he doesn't present it as well as I do.
Can I just ask, Kurt, thank God you're wearing a yarmulke.
Yeah.
You always, you never lost your faith?
Well, I'm from Germany, right? We were, I come from a small town. We were, my father didn't wear a yarmulke, you know what I mean? They were traditional Jews. Shabbos was Shabbos, you know what I mean? We had some people here from Germany not too long ago. They came from my town.
She's coming tomorrow.
She says her father used to come on Shabbos and put on the oven in my house.
But you came from a very traditional family.
Yeah, traditional, yeah. Of course.
And which town in Germany?
It's close to France.
On the border.
The border of France and Germany.
You heard of Freiburg?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and Switzerland.
I went to school there in Freiburg.
When you come out in Basel, three flashes. One, you want to go to Switzerland, you go this way.
That's right.
Want to go to Germany, you go this way.
And did you ever find, besides from your relatives in America, were there any other relatives that survived from the war?
No. I will show you.
My cousin, I was with whom I was the whole 5 years. He survived.
One of my grandchildren.
He was 3 years younger than me. He died already.
One of our grandchildren that lives here went to Poland with her school, and she took there's a big book in Poland of the names that they kept records, like by alphabet.
Meticulous.
Very meticulous. And you see all those Judas's names. So now I'm going to read to you what my granddaughter from America.
I thought you knew.
No. I'm going to find what our daughter wrote. It's not so big. I just will pick out the segment, what she thinks about her father.
She spoke last year in our show.
Not last year, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, here. Let me find it. 1 second.
And Kurt, are there any pictures of your parents?
Any what?
Pictures that...
Right here.
Yeah, no, I have the whole book. I'll show you.
These are the pictures of your parents?
Yeah, come, let him
No, let me get you some pictures.
Okay.
No, not those pictures. These pictures.
These are very... How did were these the pictures from...
From little pictures that he had a professional who made these.
There was a guy in New Jersey who made these for me.
And did your family in America, were they... How did they get these pictures?
When I came to America, my uncle was a brother to my mother.
Oh.
And my aunt was a sister to my father.
And that's why these pictures survive?
Yeah, that's it, I got them.
And then when she passed away, this aunt who took him in with another nephew, she found out they survived. She and other uncles, cousins, they made the papers for those 2 boys to come and live with her.
And they got...
And they came to America in June of 46.
Wow.
So, anyway, let me just...
And they treated you well? Your family?
She was an unusual...
I lived with my aunt till I got married.
Okay, let me show you.
But she gave you a life.
Yeah, I mean, they were wealthy people. I'm a baker. I'm a baker from professional.
This is how our daughter started the speech. The pasuk in Parashat Hazinu says, Zichor yimot olam binu shenot dor vador. The Torah tells us to remember the days of yore and to understand the happenings of the past generations. The Torah specifically uses the word binu, which means we have to understand the lesson that is to be learned from what our past generations have gone through. There are too many Holocaust deniers out there today, and the numbers of survivors are diminishing. My standing here today is to refute those deniers and to say that anti-Semitism, unfortunately, is alive and well even in our times. My parents, Kurt and Adele Judas, speak about their experience constantly, to remind my generation and all to come that we can never forget and to not let the world do this again to our people. Am Yisrael Chai. I would like to take this opportunity to say that the preparation of this address was quite emotionally draining, and I still might have a few tears left to shed, so please bear with me. There is a mushal of a king that owned a diamond. One day he noticed that a crack had developed in the diamond, and the king searched far and wide for a jeweler who could fix the crack, but was told would be impossible. Finally, he found someone who took the diamond, and from the crack he etched out the most beautiful flower. This mushal epitomizes my father. That from everything he went through, all the horrible experiences, he was still able and has always been able to find the beauty and positivity in everything.
Wow, that is magnificent. This your daughter gave a speech in Beit HaNassi.
And then she spoke of what we went through. So and then she speaks about me. So
that's a short story.
What I want to go into what she thinks about me. So hold on a second.
Good. I just want to thank you so much. It's very hard.
Well, for me, memories they last forever.
Yeah.
Some of the things that happened to me, I mean, like in that school, I mean, I still have. Can you imagine the geography page? Somebody, the teacher must have told one of the kids, take it out of my page. He wanted to. Don't forget, we got to the school in the middle of a term. And I don't know how good our French was that time, in 1944. It's a good thing it was at the end of the war, because this guy might have reported us to the Nazis. Who knows? You know what I mean? So he figured, let me take care of this guy.
Did any of the other children come up to you and say they upset what happened?
I don't remember. No, I don't remember. I mean, he beat me up pretty good, the teacher. I mean, I was 12 years old then. Those things you don't forget.
And Kurt, when you came to America, and you were now a bit older, but you were still a teenager.
I was 14 and a half.
Could you relate your story to your friends, or did they want to hear?
Never. We never spoke about in those days about the Holocaust.
You had to keep it inside.
Yeah.
Did you speak to your aunt?
Well, my aunt knew.
Did she ask you questions?
We lost 17 family members. 17.
But you couldn't speak.
So now my daughter continues and says, I always tell my children, you don't have to look far for a hero. You have your Zadie. I want to tell you about the father I have and grew up with. What I told you until now was his history, but I want to share with you my history as a child of this person who went through so much. In big letters she writes, kindness. My father is the kindest person I know. He could have become a very bitter and broken person, and rightfully so. Yet he chose to live his life by taking the high road. Let us start with his coming to America. My Oma, they called her Oma, his aunt. My father's aunt, who immigrated to America before the war, heard that she had 2 nephews that survived. She sent them clothes and tickets to come to America. When the boat arrived on the shores of New York, she went to pick them up. When my father disembarked and was greeted by his aunt, he was not wearing any shoes. So my Oma asked him, "Where are the shoes I sent you?" My father answered her that there was a girl on the boat who needed the shoes more than he did, so he gave her his only pair of shoes. This is my father. At a wedding that I recently went to, I met an old acquaintance from Washington Heights who told me, "I will never forget what your father did for me by giving me a job when I was 12 years old in the bakery. I had lost my father, and your dad became a father figure for me. This is my father." When my father began working and was living by his aunt, he gave a part of his measly paycheck every month to help her pay the rent. He never took anything for granted. This is my father. And to bring it to the present day, I'm sure you all know how much my father has done for the shul and the community, joining the Chevra Kadisha, setting up the Shiva houses, and being the Gabbai in the Hashkama Minyan. This is my father. Positivity. My father has always looked at life at the glass is half full. I seriously can never recall a day that my father was angry, upset, or sad, for my father's life is about living every day to its fullest. As you all know, my father always has a joke on his lips and always greets everyone with a big smile. Strength of character. How many people after the Holocaust left their Yiddishkeit and were angry with God? Not my father. As you already heard, while being hidden in France on the farm, he was horrified that he had to skin the rabbits for their rabbit stew and had to gather snail for escargot. And this is coming from a child who came from a traditional home, not particularly a religious one. My father came to America not knowing the language, went to school and graduated valedictorian of his class.
Wow.
My father was in the U.S. Army. No excuses or reason to not enlist even after all he had gone through. He always feels that one must do what is meant to do and take responsibility. Baruch Hashem, my parents moved to Eretz Israel. At the time was 10 years, now it's 12. After working hard, building a family, and finally able to retire at the age of 75, my father tackled learning Gemara and even had made a siyum or two. That's it. That's about the father.
I
didn't remember all this stuff.
This is amazing. You took off your shoes and you gave it to a girl on the boat?
Yeah.
That is remarkable.
My aunt actually sent me the shoes. They were feminine shoes, actually.
Gee.
Okay, now I'm going to read to you what our granddaughter from America wrote.
She wrote.
She had a chance to be a leader of a group of teenagers, among other advisors, to go to a week to Austria, a week to Germany, a week to Poland, and a week to Israel.
Wow.
And the following Yom HaShoah, I had been asked to go and speak to a Bal Tshuva women yeshiva in Givat Shaul. And I come home, I open up my computer, and this is what I find. To Grandma and Grandpa, today I'm thinking of you and your family. The survivors and the ones who did not survive. Today is the first Yom HaShoah since my trip to Poland. I cannot begin to tell you the emotions I'm feeling today. The sadness, the anger, the hope, the happiness. Every emotion I can think of is filling up my heart. To see firsthand Auschwitz, where our family was, sent chills throughout my body. And the day I opened the big book of names to see all of the Judas family members' names, I fell to the floor and cried. The fact that I, a Judas, was able to go back to the place where so many of our family members perished, I was able to finally mourn their souls that were lost too early. But when I stood up from the ground, I stood up to Hitler's, to the Nazi, that we are still here and the Judas name is still alive and thriving. They didn't win. We are the ones screaming victory. We are the ones who are continuing on the Jewish blood 4 generations later. I also want to explain to you how proud I feel when I tell my peers that my grandparents, who are Holocaust survivors, made Aliyah and are living a beautiful life in Jerusalem. I do hope to join you one day, but putting that aside, the fact that you survived wasn't enough. You made the incredible decision to move your life to the Jewish homeland. You are victorious and are the true winners. Thank you for being my grandparents. Thank you for teaching me about the word strength and the willingness to survive. But not only to survive, the willingness to thrive and reach the highest heights. Thank you, and I love you now and always. Today is a day devoted to you because you are my survivors.
Very special, very beautiful.
Is that something?
It's so emotional. It's so moving.
That's the best part. That's why I wanted to do it. I don't write that well as he does. He writes like a writer.
She's very gifted, but it's from the heart.
Yeah,
She writes from the heart.
Yeah, my